They play us off in this left-right paradigm.
Right.
It's like tag team wrestling, but they're both owned by the same company.
It's a game. You know, and then the Democrats were really upset with Obama when he voted for the FISA legislation, but they won't go so far to say, I'm going to withhold my vote from you. You didn't earn my vote. I'm going to vote for somebody who stands up for the Constitution, somebody who stands up for our rights, like Cynthia McKinney or Ralph Nader. That would be the Democrats' choice, right? The Republicans would have had the choice of Ron Paul. And so they don't, but they don't do that because they believe in this Democrat-Republican paradigm. So the Democrats just very arrogantly say, who are you going to vote for? You're going to vote for McCain? You know, like that's the only two choices. That our only two choices were McCain or Obama. And in reality, those are the only two choices. Those are the only two people that are going to win. And they're
really on the same team working against the people. In fact, I see this constantly.
Yeah, absolutely.
In hundreds of emails and calls. And I look at, say, the Obama Deception on YouTube. There's a version with 2.5 million views. And I'll check it once they just see what the comments are. And usually it's, you're just a racist that doesn't like black people.
Oh, yeah.
And then you click on their channel, it's always a white guy saying it. And it gets worse. It's kind of a high and mighty thing, you know. But then it's worse. They say, oh, you didn't bash Bush when he was doing all this, and they don't even know that all I did was go after Bush.
That's not true because we're going after the policies and the principles, not the person, right? So now when we went to George Bush's home in Preston Hollow in Dallas on Monday to protest him, I got as much crap from the left, the so-called left, as I did from the right, because
they wanted to stay there. They want it all to end. They want to shut up about the war, move on, feel good about themselves, while the Iraqis die. Stay with us.
Finally in the news this evening, it's being reported that cyber spies from Russia and China have now penetrated our power grid. Even as energy experts are reporting that each summer we get closer and closer to the limits of our nation's power grid, some say that this summer's demand for electrical power may finally push the grid over its edge, creating a cascade of power outages across the country, putting us all in the dark.
Are you prepared for the next round of storm-related outages or government-created blackouts? Have you ever thought about taking steps to get off the grid and generate your own private supply of electrical power? If so, this will be the most important information you have ever heard. Solar-powered generators are finally available. They have no moving parts to wear out or break and require absolutely no gas whatsoever. Remember, the government doesn't own the sun, so go to mysolarbackup.com. That's mysolarbackup.com. Check out mysolarbackup.com before you lose your power.
You're on a book tour, started a new radio show. Tell us about that. Calls are coming up in the next half hour. But first off, you went to our beloved president, George W. Bush, because that's what the Obama people say now. You love Bush. Cindy Sheehan loves Bush. Alex Jones loves Bush. When you criticize Obama, you're a right-winger. So as a right-wing extremist, even though you say you're against the left and right paradigm, but for Move On and George Soros, you went to protest your dear leader, George W. Bush. Tell us about that in Dallas.
Well, of course, we just want accountability. We want the Obama administration to appoint a special prosecutor. But the people on the left are screaming because they do. They just say, let's move forward. Let's forget about the last 8 years. But we can't move forward. We can't heal. We can't be anywhere near healthy if we don't hold these people accountable. But the thing the left, the so-called left, wants to stop my voice about is that Obama is doing the exact same thing. So if it was wrong under Bush and if there were war crimes and crimes against the Constitution under George Bush, then there are war crimes and crimes against the Constitution under Barack Obama. So, and then the right has always been against me. So, you know, they had the same criticisms of being anti-American. They claim to be so patriotic, hold their flags and wear their little lapel pins, but they want to deny me my First Amendment right.
Well, look at the Democrats. They are just as warmongering because they're bought and paid for by the same military-industrial banking complex.
Right.
I mean, look at Clinton in Serbia. Look at LBJ in Vietnam. I mean, go back. It's really a fraud. They want to feel like they're good, feel like they're liberal, feel like they're anti-war. But in a way, that's even worse because then people don't mount a resistance. When it's Bush arrogantly walking around with a chainsaw and a cowboy hat, acting tough, scared of cows and horses, it's obviously outrageous and disgusting.
Right.
But when it's Obama reading off a teleprompter and slick and, he's got a, he's bounding around. Yeah.
He can read a pretty speech. But he's obviously going this way and reading, and he knows how to deliver a speech that somebody wrote for him, but all they are is pretty words. His actions are speaking way louder than his words. We're killing more people in Pakistan, displacing people in Pakistan. Afghanistan is increasing. May was the deadliest month for Iraq, for our soldiers and for the Iraqi people in months. And, his other policies of continuing military commissions and the FISA Modernization Act, everything is pointing towards just a complete, fascistic takeover by our government.
Yeah, how about that?
It hasn't already happened.
Start over because I interrupted, but absolutely, they go from we're not spying on you without warrants to, it's only for Al-Qaeda to, yeah, we're listening and reading everything, and federal courts and Congress say they can do it, and now they're going to put body scanners on the streets of America. Literally living in America is going to be like living in an airport, they admit.
Right.
I mean, this is a hellish system.
It is. I can't even stand to go to the airport, and I fly a lot. It's so oppressive. It's police state oppression, and people just blindly follow it like sheeple going, it's keeping us safe, it's keeping us safe, it's keeping us safe. But it's keeping us safe at what expense? Expense to our liberties.
Well, plus we know there's a history of some of this terror being staged.
Right. Well, and it's a long history. It didn't just start on 9/11. It's a long history in our government of exploiting or causing tragedies or lying about tragedies like the Gulf of Tonkin,
the government doesn't lie, Cindy.
That, you know what?
What?
That's about all the government does.
I've never heard something that preposterous. They lie. We're going to come back in 70 seconds, Cindy. Stay there. We're going to start the final hour of the show, the official show, but internet only at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.tv. I'm going to do a fifth hour today, so stay with us. Cindy Sheehan is in studio with us. Before we forget, and time runs out in the next 30 minutes when we're taking calls, Cindy, tell folks about your book tour, your website, what you're doing.
I wrote an internet booklet called Myth America, 10 Greatest Myths of the Robber Class and the Case for Revolution. And it's about removing ourselves from the systems, the robber class systems of the military, the banking, and the government to create our own healthy systems. And I exploit 10 myths in my book. I expose 10 myths in my book, and I try to convince people that they are just myths. For example, that America is the greatest nation in the universe. For example, elections matter. The Federal Reserve System cares about us. That it's noble to die in robber class wars. That 9/11 was caused by 19 Muslims with box cutters. So you expose these myths, and then you try to overcome them so people can stop trusting and believing everything that the system tells us. The system is inherently wrong. And I don't know if we can reform this system. I don't think the system can be reformed. I think we need an entire new system that is independent from the robber class. And I say that we are operating on a class divide in this country. It's robber class and robbed class. And there is no distinction between Democrat and Republican. There is no distinctions in the robber class. They only work together to steal our wealth, steal our children, and oppress us. And here in the robbed class, we're all fighting about Democrat, Republican, black, white, Jew, Christian, Muslim. We're all divided, and we're fighting each other while they're stealing everything we own.
I've read a lot of old declassified French and British intelligence communiques and higher level battle plans that's just now been declassified the last 50 years from 200, 300 years ago.
Right.
And it's all about confusing the enemy and getting people to infight.
Right.
And they would say these prayers in intelligence meetings about confusing the enemy and confounding the enemy. And that's what they're doing. And you do have this robber class, but now they know people are resisting them, so they're programming the whole society where the robbed class feels like they're part of the robber class and can only get jobs backing up this parasitic, corrupt system. And now they're fully converting what was left of what was our free society into where all the major college grads and the grants and the tuition, the scholarships are for Homeland Security and spying. And so you won't have a choice. They're making the whole world where the whole country and the world is a giant prison, and they call it that. Hence prisonplanet.com. And then the technocrats, those families, they own the very grids that control everybody. And they're shutting down the farms and ranches with animal ID, premises ID. I mean, it is hellish how fast they're racing. They call it the scientific dictatorship. They say other dictatorships got overthrown. This is going to be scientifically done to head the portable humans off at every pass, cornering our own species, institutionalizing predator activity in a scientific mode against the people.